to return to the tavern. Both Fancy and Graham are, the best word would really be intercepted
Son of a
by
bitch!
by a pair of women, both clothed in incredibly colorful neon colored flowing dresses, probably as expensive as they look. One of them is rather thin and lithe, and, well, some would even call her pretty. The other one more on the chubby side. They both have the identical, exaggerated, or rather enormous smile of meeting perhaps an old acquaintance of sorts, as they both with open arms, with flowing gestures approach Fancy, as one of them says, "Fancy Minette, fancy seeing you here, one could say. What a marvelous coincidence that we are looking for exactly you. Yes, we certainly had many convenient, absolutely unplanned circumstances recently, and for one such circumstance, we require your help, your charm, your artistic talent. We need you to put on a show unlike anyone would expect." Well,
Fancy, to properly convey her situation, for all of that grandiose, appearances that she can give, she has the deer in headlight look, although that's, not something that fits this area. Like, her eyes are wide. One of her, her right index finger is currently, frozen in her mouth right now, where she was still sucking off, the honey. And so she's got a finger in her mouth, and, she's got still, sugar and, crumbs on her clothes. And she certainly doesn't wear her armor out here. Oh, heavens, no! That'd be... Who's gonna do anything about that? And she, in the back of her mind, the gears are turning, do I know these people? I must have met them somewhere.
well, it does seem like to the two individuals, the deer in the headlight looks suits them perfectly, as the conversation they are having with Fancy is incredibly one-sided. So just the two of them talking as the chubby one continues. Well, unlike one particular individual would expect more precisely, one particularly grumpy and potentially dangerous individual, the live one picks up the string of conversation. Apocristarius Warwick, to be utterly precise. We need you to make him angry, thoroughly annoyed, utterly taunted and furious, dangerously furious even. And preferably in the middle of town, where he will likely be for another couple of days, continuing his siege of the Cloud Dragon post, as it were. He really wants to send a letter, even though he is one of the Apocristarius, and delivering messages is his job. The other woman chimes in, "Oh, sister, but smart people delegate tasks. I can understand his behavior." The other woman looks into the skies, kind of a finger on her chin as she contemplates what the other woman just said. She simply says, "True that, yes. So, Fancy, what do you say?"
I don't want to make a Tananim or really anyone angry.
Oh, well, listen, dear. It's difficult. We know he is up to no good, and I do believe that you know exactly the same. But he's part of the Grey Order, and that makes him untouchable, and his word the truth. Now, the Greys have always had a particular gripe with beliefs that differ from their own, like yours. And we do believe that you might enjoy the possibility of having him dealt with, doing it personally even, with our assistance, of course. So let's say he attacks you in the middle of the day in the center of a town. You defend yourself. He is slain or ideally arrested, and the world is rid of one violent, treacherous individual. Of course, how you get him to strike at you does not matter, as long as he throws the first blow. And we've seen you fight Fancy. Well, no, not seen. No, we shouldn't say that. We've heard of your abilities.
Oh, well, I really can't say I've done much. A little bit here and there in one village or another. Fancy, blushes, the boot, starts, rubbing, him against the road.
Listen, dear, don't worry. You just have to get him to do what he probably already wants to do, just in the right location. We'll make it look right to the people who might see it from behind the curtains. We'll make sure the guard is close by to assist. Won't be any repercussions. Nothing to worry about once he is dealt with. Think about it. Would you rather face him here with our help or somewhere out in the fields alone when he
Well, I
comes to
would hope
finish what he started?
I well, I would hope that violence would not have to be a part of anything at all. I don't know why he would want to, other than him being a part of the Order of the Grey, and Granath has already sent people after me, so you might be right.
It's politics, dear. It's a violent mess that swirls around everyone. But sometimes you need to take the politics out of the swirling mess and just have the mess, but on your terms.
Have my own mass. Fancy's thinking of like putting that like in a line, like as part of like a stanza somewhere. There's like that she's like convincing herself nod, which may or may not be alarming to Graham.
Well, he's sort of listening, though he's frowning at these two ladies. He's not sure he likes what they're saying. He doesn't buy what they're selling, or whatever you say.
Well, I could always talk to him and convince him about other religions, because the Greys have problems with that, yes. And if he becomes upset or aggressive, then that's very wrong, and he should be arrested.
Well, just a civil discussion is probably not going to cut it, but if you do not feel yourself able to put on such an elaborate act, then, well, really a conversation is all we need, and we can... They both make gestures with their hands. Twist the course of your conversation into the right tones.
Wait.
Simple
Are you
tricks,
talking
really.
about lying? No lying.
Well, you wouldn't be lying. You would just do the talking.
Well, I can try to have a conversation.
So, this conversation would be there to make him angry so that you could get away with his murder.
Well, to put it bluntly, yes.
Fancy looks conflicted. Looks over at Graham, says, well, and like in front of like these two people. It's not like she cares enough to like analyze them. Fancy says, well, people hired by Granath did come after us on the road, and the Warwick Tannenham did endanger us.
Graham nods and says, it is true, but as far as I understand, and it may be little, it may be a lot, but I don't think he necessarily wants to be in the position he's in.
Oh, who does nowadays, dear? But that hardly matters in the grand picture of politics. It's pawns and kings and queens and towers. And in the end, you do have to remove a few of them to get to the actual players.
And the Order of the Grey does bully around a great number of people, Graham.
This is, it is not how I would do such a thing if it was necessary. Go to him, say your intention, lay down the sticks in a ring, and have a battle as it is meant to be before the gods. There's none of this treachery, using the gods, putting innocents in danger for this sort of purpose. It doesn't seem right to me. I may be old-fashioned, he sort of says with a bit of a emphasis on the word.
Fancy shakes her head. Not everything has to be about violence. What I'll do is I'll have a conversation with him tomorrow, and maybe I can convince him that his current predicament with the gray and orders and rules and whatever just isn't right. And then we'll never have to see him again.
At times, maybe, Sir Francis, if you wish to, not want to stop you, but
You had a
picking a fight
conversation with
isn't.
him, and I'm certainly not looking to pick a fight like Gilgalad and Anrican did.
Yes, I think it is safe to say that I feel a little sorry for the creature. Being stuck in a position you can't really do anything about. Being he looks at the two, pawn for some bigger player, I don't like that. It is not how it's supposed to be. You follow the leaders because you believe in what they mean and what they stand for, not because something forces you to do so.
Oh dear,
I
we are
believe
not here
intention
to.
matters.
Well, we are not here to discuss philosophy or politics for that matter. We've shown you our hand and have already told you than we have told most people.
And who do you work for?
Oh, that hardly matters. Not that we could tell you anyways.
Navarro slightly insists. I see.
Say, on a whole other topic, do you think you could get us an autograph from that Enrican fella?
You know, her face a little bit more and says, I suppose that wouldn't be difficult.
They both instantly look ecstatic. They giggle a bit. Oh, great. Well, when you start talking to him, to Warwick, that is, just give us a sign and you'll find yourself rather, perhaps not intimidating, but infuriating. That should do the trick.
What?
They both giggle a bit.
Fancy narrows her eyes at the two.
Oh, just a bit of a twist here, a bit of magic there, and... Well, we don't need to get into details. The world is a stage, Fancy, and you have a big part to play here.
I think you two should walk away now.
Come to the Cat and the Cucumber tonight. I'll see if I can get an autograph handed to you by the innkeep.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Meet you right there. They giggle one last time, and with a sort of handkerchief producing hand gesture, they wave towards both Fancy and Graham over their shoulders and move away.
He sort of looks to Fancy and says, strange company. But I suppose I've done similar things.
Not really my company, Graham. I do not recognize them at all.
Maybe Enrican will.
Wait. Why did they want his autograph? Fancy looks over at Graham. What has he done?
Ask him about it, though hopefully not in a rude way. I'm sure he has done many things in the sort of darkens a little bit esoteric research of death.
Fancy looks
after the two.
Fancy narrows her eyes even more. In the essence. Why did they not seek him out then? Why me?
Maybe they trust your skills at infuriating more than his. So she's, I don't know.
Fancy says, well, that's not true. Anrican clearly upset a Tananim. He's upset one Tananim. I've upset 0 Tananims. It's logic.
You don't need to convince me. No, let us go. He might be back. We should get ready regardless. All stinky, and it is warm out here. A bath would do good, and well, I suppose I'll ask him to. An autograph is a name on a On paper, yes.
Why are you? Why did you offer to do that for them, Graham?
Found instructions. Doesn't require much effort on our part. We might make them happy.
What if
Don't
it's
see
all?
much nefarious need for it.
Or what if it is all part of some grand scheme through which, by obtaining an article of his handwriting, they are somehow able to weave a grandiose, horrible spell? Perhaps they're
He knows
individuals
of such
from.
things. I'm sure if that is the case, he will say no or do something to prevent it. I have traveled with him for some time, and I've never been in a predicament that he obviously couldn't get us out of. He,
Yes, well, you also don't know why they would be interested in his autograph, Graham.
yeah, exactly. I'll mention it to him. Sometimes a little bit of kindness can take us a long way. Since I've learned that much. My condition is disliked by many, and by just being friendly, I can sometimes avoid a lot of issues. And it is enjoyable in some way. It's refreshing. It didn't used to be that way, you understand. I have seen enough suffering in my life to want to see any more. In a way, I suppose happiness is the opposite.
Fancy blinks in confusion, starts walking, and says, "You are strange to advocate both friendliness and then fighting people."
Says, I suppose. Yeah, he is probably very strange. He will return to the cucumber and the cat, though. A little bit sad that the day had to involve this sort of. You think he diffused the work situation well, and now this sort of people desiring them to murder people. There's a little bit of a down, putting the mood down, so to speak. Now Fancy's judging him as being weird. Yeah. Maybe he is too old for this. I suppose you're sitting like in the room or outside smoking?
Yeah, sitting on the bench or veranda or something outside.
Okay, we'll walk up, looking a little bit sort of, it's not as happy as he was before.
Must be weird.
Anakin sees him. Well, don't look too
Do you know
happy.
two strange women? Sort of describes them.
Would Anakin recognize them, Ship?
Oh, yes. He's met them twice at this point.
He nods. Yes. They have a knack for showing up in odd places. They talk a lot.
Are they good people?
He frowns. Difficult to say. They have helped me in the past.
They wanted you to, well, they asked me to ask you to make autographs and give them to the innkeep for them to come get later. Too, I believe. Do you have an idea why they would ask for that?
Anakin blinks a little bit.
They seemed ecstatic when I told them I would try.
I had no idea I had fans of such dedication. He frowns as it doesn't really seem to be completely convinced.
You saw or heard my conversation with the Grey.
Yes.
They wanted us to kill him, provoking him with their aid into a rage, then murder him and saying it was self-defense.
He looks at Graham and says, it wouldn't be the first time we have killed something like a tenem in self-defense, but he looks around. I don't know. I don't like it. It is clear that the Grey is up to no good. They have accosted us many times since we teamed up with the others. And they're up to something. But I would like to be sure before I actually...
Yes, as I understood it, his words were somewhat clear. Looks to Gilgalad, who might be like spacing out.
No, he is listening in, basically.
Right. But I understand that he does not necessarily want to perform the orders he is given, but simply has to do so to a degree that would convince someone spectating it that he is doing his best.
Yes, that might be one interpretation of it.
Gil is gonna nod. Yeah, he seemed to be bound by duty.
Another
But
interpretation...
then again, so am I.
Another interpretation might be that he simply got an order to perform the duties of his office, and instead twisted it around to try to kill us. We don't know in what way he disobeyed or bent the rules.
I believe that is enough. No, we would investigate if we had more to go on, as we've done before.
The
The
problem
way
is...
he spoke to us, the way he seems to behave and his actions considered, I would say he was actually under some sort of orders he didn't quite like. Probably involving our deaths. So he somehow worked
mentioned
around that for now.
Grineth, someone he's working for.
Yes.
Mhm.
He will be late, he stated. Grineth will be infuriated. It means that he is delaying himself for some reason, contrary to these orders, probably stretching them to the limit of what he is able to do.
Exactly.
This also means that the name Granith has now come up an alarming...
Too many times for it to be a coincidence. We're
Yes.
being targeted by him.
Yes. We need to find him and destroy him. Or at least figure out his role in all of this. Because he is at the center of this web that surrounds us.
We have a meeting with people who might know more. I'll go get ready for it. You should write your autographs for the two ladies to pick up. I didn't like them, but there's no reason to not be civil.
And I can snort, thinking, I don't even know what they would do with them. I shudder to think. Sort of seems I'm gonna do a Master of the Mystic Arts test sheet to see if Anarkin would think it's safe from a magical standpoint to give them an autograph.
All right, make it a secret check for me.
Like bathing.
How do I do that?
Voodoo doll. Out of the
So
ordinary.
one second, I need to close the door.
Just slash roll secret. Yeah.
I'll be right back while Graham bathes.
Skill.
Actually, making it secret is done. Just make it open one.
Okay.
Well, there might be ways to amplify magic targeted at someone through possessions or pieces of hair or skin or fingers or handwriting. Just an autograph probably really wouldn't help that much. If you had written like an autobiography and they got their hands on that, then that spellcaster could potentially use that to amplify things somewhat. But handwriting really isn't a good conduit.
Alright. That was something. They're only gonna put my name on some order somewhere. Why have you, Anarkin, ordered to kill the president? And I'm like, what? Damn it. Oh well, fine. Anarkin will put down the autographs. As Graham said, there is no reason not to be civil. And if these lovely ladies can be more friendly towards him in the future, that'll be great. He loves friendly ladies. He'll leave it with the innkeeper and give a vivid description of the ladies in question.
The innkeep will nod and take the autographs, putting them under his belt.
It'd be like, for the lovely ladies so and so. Yes. Signed, Anarchin.
The barkeep is appropriately confused, taking another look at Enrican, potentially trying to think if he's somewhat famous.
Soul Stealer
And-
Anrican the Traveler.
Exactly. Anarchin winks conspiratorially towards him, and will again return outside and continue smoking as he waits for Graham to take his bath. Anarchin is already bathed. He's, although that doesn't help him much.
Well, as dusk is slowly approaching here, dusk? That's the word for the sun going down, right? As the sun slowly is setting, one of the patrons in the Cannon Cube camera actually approaches the table that Fancy is currently sitting at. He is definitely an odd-looking fella, considering the usual patrons of taverns and such. Wearing some sort of priestly garb, almost. A long robe, almost looking like a sort of makeshift, no, not makeshift, but a pseudo apron with different symbols engraved on the linings and such. He approaches, after standing up from his own table where he was sitting alone, somewhat hesitantly, politely, trying to catch mostly Fancy's attention.
Fancy by this point is beyond the novelty of people like approaching her at like tavern tables. She's like she's on a sugar low right now. She's got like a little book out with like a quill, like she's trying to think of like neat, cool lines to write down, like "You will do your best and we will do our best, but sometimes one best isn't enough." And she's looking at a sea of rocks and tosses, never stable, never able. And she's like, "How can I put these together?" She's lost in her own world. In short, she is oblivious to the man.
Yeah. The person seems even more hesitant at that, kind of quietly clearing his throat, then glancing over to both Graham and Dimas, glancing back to Fancy. Bit awkward, to say the least. But he will eventually...
His freshly washed self. Freshly braided, he combed his hair. His fresh pelt on his shoulders. It's, very nice and regal. It's great. He's probably like sitting here like cleaning some of his equipment or something. Casually.
The person will step forward, bending down to knock on the table, clearing his throat again.
Fancy. Hmm?
Sorry, miss. I don't know how to be any less direct, but do you happen to be in possession of a ring, perhaps?
Fancy slowly looks up from like her like papers.
Well, how to put this? I do believe I am not talking to the wrong woman, although I might be, in which case this would be very awkward, but my name is Saren, and I'm trying to find a collection of...
Good evening, Saren.
Good evening, miss. Trying to find a collection of items that have been taken away from their rightful owners. I was, I hope, following the trail of a ring that I believe you might be wearing, or at least in possession of. I was hoping that... Sorry, continue.
Fancy gives him a quizzical look. Maybe?
Well, you see, I was hoping that it would lead me to the rest of the items, but that doesn't quite seem to be the case. And please do not misunderstand me. I'm not here to, if you do indeed possess it, take it away. That's not my intent at all. I'm just... He shrugs a bit.
Fancy gives him the ultimate death stare, which is like the look of pity. And in her mind, she's thinking, bless his heart. Like, he's socially awkward and is having difficulty interacting with her. He's overwhelmed. Fancy gives a warm smile and says, "Of course, of course, of course. Well, I can say at the ring that I currently possess, which may or may not be the one that is related to your efforts, was attached to a mercenary group that came looking after me to cause me bodily harm. It was in a pouch with a letter that said it was recovered from religious fanatics related to the fraud in the mountains, and it was to be delivered to a very nasty, uncouth individual."
The individual nods. Yes, yes, that does sound about right. Mercenaries, we figured they would be simple bandits, as they have been plaguing many of the more isolated communities in the mountains for a while at this point. Amaranth has told me that she has contacted you if you are indeed in possession of what I think you might be.
As Fancy has like that glazed over look in her eyes, like, is that a name? Like, oh, like Fancy looks down at her hand, back at the individual. Oh, well, then Fancy like stands up. Maybe we can like walk somewhere. Let's walk to a place.
Yes, I suppose, although, yes. The individual will slowly walk.
Fancy giving that pitying, like heartfelt smile, like thinking that he's just socially awkward, or maybe his community's been in trouble and he's lost loved ones.
Well, you see, Miss, I'm afraid I don't actually know your name.
Fancy. I'm Fancy Minette.
Fancy,
What's your name?
Miss. My name is Saren. I seem to be from the religious fanatics that you have mentioned.
That's just, you know how the Order of the Grey is.
Excuse me?
You know, religious intolerance. It's what they do. It's how they function.
I was not aware that the bandits were related to the Order of the Grey. That does make sense, I suppose.
As far as my understanding, yes. They are connected with an individual named Grenath, who has also gotten involved in my life in other ways.
That is valuable information, not because I'm here, although it does help me on my own quest. I'm simply here to tell you what Amaranth told me to tell you. She was expecting to find some despicable thug, or worse, wearing the ring, but instead she found, well, you. And she would like to invite you and those who have saved one of her creations to her abode in the mountains. Whenever you have a moment of peace, and of course the willingness to travel the long way up the mountains.
Oh, sure. If I think my companions, I think the people I'm traveling with are looking to head into the mountains soon. So depending on where this abode is, I might stop by and visit this Amaranth.
It is a rather long way north. It would be surprising to me if you were heading that way already, but, well, the invitation is a gesture, really. Not many people are able or want to, in the first place, go to where the more isolated communities live. Have you heard about Arden Crest, perhaps?
This is me saying maybe. I don't know the answer to that question, God.
Well, it does not surprise me. Arden Crest is really a name for a collection of different communities where those who merely wish to be perhaps alone with their thoughts or their philosophies wish to stay. It is also where Amaranth has her place. I have left there a couple of months ago, and, well, the only lead I had was that I might find something in Freedom's Hold. I'm surprised that that was true, although I perhaps should eventually get used to the fact that the gods do work in mysterious ways.
Fancy smiles and says, "Unfortunately, I do not know where the rest of the items have gone. The group that assaulted me was only carrying this." And, she holds out her hand, and there's the ring, and she's wearing it.
Well, if what you say is true, and I know that it is, then I do have an inclination where those stolen items could be. If the Grey are involved, then, well, my dreams make sense. I saw a vault, a catacomb, and I do know that the Grey have such a thing in Coppergate.
Where they collect all of the prized relics from our irrelevant religions and store them away for their own purposes.
I suspect that they call it something else, but that could very well be the case.
Fancy looks upset.
I'm surprised that I am disappointed that it is not, after all, merely bandits, although it does make sense. Bandits would not make the long way up the mountains.
No. Well, they're easier targets for them.
Well, I did not wish to make your day worse by telling you my own woes, and
Fancy, in a friendly, amiable fashion, rests, the hand with the ring, on his shoulder, says, "No, it's all right. Our burdens are to be shared. We are persecuted equally."
perhaps, although if the Grey are indeed in possession of the things they stole from us, I do not think we will ever see them again. None of them were priceless artifacts, I suppose, although, of course, all of them are irreplaceable. I suppose we'll simply have to live with the fact that they are gone.
Fancy, has, a deeper frown, says, I do not know whether just living with it and accepting it is the right course, but the gods do understand the trials we face here with these Tananim and the Order of the Grey looming over us.
I would not put all the blame on the Tananim as a whole. You should know that Amaranth is, in fact, one of them.
Yes, it's just that the Order of the Grey, typical, it's recent experiences. There's a Tananim, the Grey, Order of the Grey floating around who is also responsible for trying to cause harm and works for Granath.
I see, I suppose. I think I will have to take some time to digest what you just said.
I wish I had a direction to recommend you go. I can't say. I was my friends, friends were attacked several weeks ago. It was now traveling to Lonebridge. So the items could be anywhere. Clearly, multiple mercenary groups were involved.
It is both lucky and unlucky, I suppose, that the ring is the only item that Amaranth is able to track. Although it does mean that it has led me to you, which... He smiles.
Fancy smiles back.
Still, I do not wish to waste your time any longer.
You have not wasted my time.
Thank you.
Fancy will, gently pull her hand off his shoulder. I hope you find what you are looking for, Saren.
Thank you again. I do find myself in the awkward situation of staying in the same tavern that you are in, but I don't suppose that's awkward, but my point being, I think I will go to bed now.
Fancy, in her, probably the pitying look, like deepens. What a troubled soul he is, she thinks. Fancy nods. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Fancy scratches her head and waits for him to walk away, and then slowly proceeds back to the papers she left on the table. Then she sits down in the chair, creaks.
Graham looks up, looks at her. Well, she has no reaction to that. He just looks back down.
Fancy
Yes,
gives
enough.
Fancy gives a puzzled look back at Graham.
Is a friend of yours or another admirer?
Neither.
Next little bit up again says, what do you want?
Fancy rolls her tongue around in his mouth. I'm used to playing male characters.
A bit forward.
Well, I'll say.
That was a revelation.
Oh man. Fancy rolls her tongue around and says he wanted a confirmation. The ring that we recovered from those who attacked us some weeks past was part of a collection of relics possessed by religious communities in the mountains. The Order of the Grey, it seems, has been sending mercenary companies and the like to pillage those communities and seize their relics and bring them back to Coppergate.
He frowns. I suppose that's unfortunate.
Yes, very much so. Unfortunately, we did not receive any further information about where the rest of those items could be. Presumably locked away in some vault somewhere.
Perhaps we should go to, seems like this name Greneth is coming up a lot. These religious communities, I assume, is connected to that as well?
Yes, I imagine so. Although, if what you heard from Warwick was true, which I wasn't paying attention, really, but if what he said was true, then Greneth is probably in Coppergate. We could liberate the relics and return them to the communities where they belong.
Yes, it seems like he wants our attention very badly. If he truly does all these things that everyone says, and it seems that many different sources have come together, it certainly is not something we should ignore.
We can go deliver that message personally.
Not so. Wouldn't that be something?
Knock on his door, tell him that Warwick will be late. There's. We should be civil about it, right, Graham?
I'm not as yes, I'm sure. We invited into his home, and he shall tell us exactly what sort of gripe he has with us, and if it is something that has to come to blows, then we shall stand there and come to blows with him as civil as it can be. As there's no need for him to send everyone else after us, after all.
Fancy pauses and says, I do not think I will be that civil if I see him, though, Graham. He has sent people to harm me.
Yes. Yes, but what I mean by being civil, is, and that's perhaps things were different in my days, and by dealing with something civilly, it simply meant that you fought them in person. No pawns or putting other people in between you. He who has a problem, and you would battle it out. If it was fatal, then so be it, though it did not always have to be. Now it's been replaced with bureaucracy. Instead of scoffs a little bit. Much simpler back then.
And he says, and in the interest of perhaps doing something roughly an hour and a half into the session, I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah.
For the record, Gil is gonna notice this whole conversation and suggest that we do indeed have a few questions for this person. Should probably head to Copper Gate soon.
Gilgalad, I am unsure whether you are the best question asker.
I'm not sure myself. But
that was pretty much the politest way that Fancy could play it.
Yeah.
Where's Enrican currently?
He is sitting outside on a bench, watching people go by. No one's really called for him or anything. He's just sitting there smoking.
Well,
looking at the people.
Turns out, as the sun continues its way down the horizon, he'll get some company. Simply plomping himself next to Enrican, pulling out his own pipe.
Anakin looks over, nods. Marcus, was it?
Oh, indeed. And I'm here to tell you that you should probably get ready.
Anakin looks around. Am I about to be attacked?
I'm not ready in that way, just ready to head out to the meeting place.
Oh, certainly. Where is this meeting place?
I'll lead you there. It's a warehouse in the, shadier part of town. Stereotypes, I know, but they do it because it works.
Should I fetch the others, then?
Yeah, of course.
Alright. Gets up, opens the door into the bar, walks in. You can hear his staff thumping on the floor as he approaches. It seems the time has come.
Standard. Right then.
Well then.
Marcus will then head out into the approaching night, leading the way, turning left and right and left again through many a smaller side street.
And then a Gru ate him, and we never saw him again.
As he'll kind of fall in line, whoever is walking closest to him, she simply starts talking, really. So, Ace, the woman you're going to meet, leads a group that likes to shake things up around here once in a while. Usually nothing major. Caravan here, burning embassy there. You know, Grand Castle's embassy isn't built of brick for no reason. Not just for looks. Used to be wood. Suffice to say, she's not too happy about how things are run around here. And that's kind of how I got in contact with her. Fresh off the boat, little soldier Marcus, ready to follow orders. Pay was good, you know. Protect an outpost of Ray, cultivate peaceful relations with the natives, if you catch my drift, and get paid, of course. Should have probably checked what them Tananim were before I accepted. Should have realized outposts are called that because they are in the middle of hardly anything. So I left. Long story short, ended up here. Freedom's Hold. Doesn't quite take a genius to realize that things aren't fair on this continent, even. If you ain't a big, scaly lizard painted in the right colors, you're stuck working the farms to feed him. Ace wanted to change things. Figured that'd be more interesting than doing nothing. Well, skipping ahead, failed heist on the vault of those grey lizards later, and I'm stuck in Grand Castle's fancy underground prison. And then a halfling shows up, and I suspect things are going to stay interesting for a little while at least. About Ace, though, she's... Well, you should show her the appropriate respect. She's a stone-cold force of nature, really. Weirdest thing, though, if you ask me, her reputation. She really doesn't like liars, which is an awkward thing to not like in her position. I've seen her being quite literally stabbed in the back. Know what she was? Disappointed. That's all. And then the guy who did it tried telling everyone that she stole from him. Then she nailed him to a chair with those two odd-looking daggers she has. Bloody affair. Supposedly she's never said a lie herself. You accuse her of lying, you're gonna have bad time. Never broken a promise either. Nobody alive can prove it anyway, so... Marcus shrugs. The rules of this are going to be rather simple, I presume. No weapons, of course, you can leave them outside. You'll be led into a room with her, presumably some bodyguards of hers. And then you ask a question. She tells you the price, you accept or not, and she'll give you the best answer she can. Or rather, I suppose the best answer she wants to give you.
Seems fine enough.
Great, good. Do remember that if you screw up, then I'm in the boat with you. Just
Seems to be more of a problem for you than for us. I smile slightly.
I almost feared you'd say that, but I at least know that Dimas won't leave me hanging in some random cellar of a warehouse, right?
If that's what you think of
Dimas
Dimas.
looks around.
You're not doing a great job at making me very confident about this, you know that.
Dimas smiles.
Takes a little while of walking, 10-20 minutes, until you get from the happy part of town, as it were, to the more industrial, the warehouses, the abandoned buildings, the butcher shops and tanners and all the smelly things where people don't really want to be too close to. The big manufactories. There aren't many in Freedom Soul, but there's a couple. And eventually Marcus stops at a building looking like any other building in this particular area, knocking twice, and simply opening the door, going in, waving you inside as well. The building turns out to be, well, a warehouse, really, because That was pretty obvious from the outside. The large ceiling, or the tall ceiling even, rather large building, made out of brick even. Quite the expensive warehouse, probably at some point. Now it looks like it has seen better days. The inside, not so much looking like a warehouse, but rather a tavern. There's people, there's tables, there's chairs, and there's drinks. Let me reveal a slight place for you. That should be good.
I assume that the Etterling stays outside.
Yes.
Like, he counts as a weapon. I don't know what their rules for that is, but...
Well, as you essentially enter, let me actually make the people visible. 1 second. The door, usually markers give him a slight wave as they all stand up, moving towards you. All of them looking rather, well, fug-like, big. They'll point towards the weapons they can see, point towards the outside, grunting. This guy, at least.
Yeah, sure. Takes the axe and like puts it by the door. They can put it outside if they want. That's fine. Doesn't sound like anyone wants to resist that sort of thing.
Fancy will. Yeah, Fancy will. Fancy will leave behind her great sword and her composite longbow and her dagger, but she is keeping her whip.
You wouldn't part a man with his walking stick, would you?
Gil is obviously gonna leave his sword and his bow.
Yep.
Marcus also strips himself of multiple daggers, to say the least.
Yeah. Dimmins has to like take off his entire belt.
Just give him the jacket. Just take the soul of it.
Yeah, just let me. He like fishes like a knife out of his armpit.
5 kilos of daggers clanked down on the floor.
He just kind of shakes himself off a few more, fly out.
It's like dandelion seeds.
The large person basically overseeing this process, this guy right in front of you, will also point towards the more, well, specifically Gilgalad and Enrican here, as he says, spellcasting things too. We know the kind. Wands, sticks, pouches, outside.
Just give them to the Etterling. He won't let anyone have them if you don't want it to.
Fine.
Be fine.
Fine. I don't think I need my staff to actually cast anything. It's just there.
Yeah.
No, it's just there.
Alright.
It's not magical, so
Let's
it
make
doesn't
them
assist
feel
you in
safe.
any way.
Yeah, exactly. Let's make them feel safe. Do you realize?
Probably not something you should tell them. I am just as capable without this as I. All right, he stays outside.
You're all in range of my circle of death. It's like, what?
Even now, I could
There's
kill
no
you all.
escalation die.
Yes.
Yes.
Gilgalad is gonna put his amulet around the Etterling's neck, I suppose.
Yeah, hold this,
For
please.
safekeeping.
Give him everything.
Etterling just holds the amulet. You should not like post-mortem convert him. That's rude.
That's very rude, yeah.
Might well.
We don't do that here. That's that other cult that does it.
It
Well,
was about to put it around the neck, and then Gram, I guess, gave him the face.
Yeah, like.
I'm trying to post-convert my undead companion. Please don't. Well, thusly disarmed.
Thusly disarmed, he will basically tell you to form a line, as he'll make very sure that you did indeed do as he said. As he will basically want to pat down all of you, looking for weapons.
Well,
Excuse me?
frowns at him. Says,
Anarchy frowns at him.
that seems indignifying. I think this is enough. Remember, you are in the boat with us as well.
From the table in the middle, the person sitting to the woman's right, currently waving around a small stick, a slight whitish bluish light shining from its end, basically, interjects. That is quite enough. Just let them in. Except for the person in the back, because you still have something rather dangerous with you that I would rather you leave outside. I know you don't need it, but I would feel more comfortable if you didn't have it with you.
Fancy looks towards Enriken.
Everyone does. Oh.
Anarchy looks at her. I would leave it if I could.
The man raises an eyebrow. I see. Just be aware that I am very aware of potential capabilities and will react accordingly. Let's keep this civil.
That's fine. If you stop threatening me, I am sure I will not turn this entire house into a smoldering ruin.
The woman to his right speaks, saying, always just doing his job. Perhaps too... Let's just get this over with, shall we? She points at the seats at the table. The people here grudgingly sit back to their drinks. Marcus also gestures you for you to walk forward because he doesn't seem to want to.
I like seats, so we'll go and take one.
They are not on the grid, so might be slightly awkward.
They even got a seat for the Etterling.
I'm pretty sure it's for Marcus.
No, it's for the Etterling. Marcus can stand.
Marcus is quite content staying very close to the exit.
Okay.
As if that will save him.
Well, I think I know enough about who you are, so let me introduce myself first. I am Ace. Here's how this is going to work. Marcus, good friend of mine. He suggested that you need some help. I agreed. You can ask me any question. If I am able to answer your question, I will first tell you the price. The price will not be currency, but a favor. If you accept, I will tell you what I know. Just one last thing. I hate liars. Every word I say is the truth. Every promise I make, I will keep. May all the gods listen closely and punish me for every lie I say. On the other hand, if you lie to my face, it won't be the gods you have to worry about.
Arkin looks around. Well, shall we begin the transaction then?
Ask.
Who is Graneth, and where do we find him?
Fancy pipes up. Oh, we know where we can find him, Enriken. You don't have to ask that.
Coppergate is not exact enough. He looks over to Ace. It's a
Who
big town.
is Graneth then? All right, that's a question. Here's what I would like you to do for that piece of information. There's an embassy here in town. Of course, you will know that. Grand Castle. That's where Ambassador Wren resides. I need him gone from Freedom Soul for a little while. 3 weeks, perhaps. I don't really care how you make him disappear, but if I may make a suggestion, he has a wilder sweetheart not far from here. big no-no as far as his official capacity is concerned. Pay her a visit, politely ask for some of her scales, and bring them to me. That should be enough to make Ren decide to disappear for as long as I need him to.
Well, Enrique looks around.
When you say politely,
I
Colonel Jones
mean,
says she wouldn't lie. She means politely.
oh, I see.
whatever is necessary.